It's a story that has gripped national attention and sparked a heated debate about air travel, passenger conduct, and fundamental human rights. On an Ibom Air flight, passenger Comfort Emmanson was accused of unruly behaviour, an incident that escalated into her arrest, public shaming, and the threat of legal action. Now, the airline claims she was disruptive. Comfort, on the other hand, says that she was provoked, humiliated, and had her dignity violated. Nigerian Bar Association stepped in. They called Ibom Air's statement of Comfort reckless and a violation of her constitutional rights to dignity.
And the Minister of Aviation, Festus, Keyamo, has since ordered airlines and regulators to withdraw certain cases against passengers, including this one. But questions remain. Was this truly a case of air rage, or was it an abuse of power at 35,000 feet? This morning, we're joined by Towo Osero-Woja, who is a legal practitioner and public affairs analyst. Towo, it's good to have you back on the program this morning. You have seen the statements from Ibom Air. You've now seen the viral accounts of eyewitnesses who happen to have been passengers on the plane. And also you have seen the NBA's position. So from a legal standpoint, what do you think this case stands for? What do you make of all that's happening and how this all played out in the public space throughout the week?
Good morning, Judith and Mazino. Can you hear me?
Yes,
Loud and clear.
Yeah, I think there's another stakeholder we didn't mention, which is the airline operators of Nigeria. I've also read their statement and their actions therein. If you look at it from all aspects of human endeavor or in a civilized or developed society, what happened during that, the incident that occurred and the step taken by relevant authorities, including the police, including the airline operators, including the Ibom Air, is uncalled for, unprofessionalized, and at the same time lack of empathy, if I may put it that way, and improper way of managing crisis. If you've heard the witness account of people who were on board, you agree with me that the airline would have done better. And I won't speak from a biased point, because some of us have been victims of improper management of airlines and their excesses, which has gone unquestioned. The first area we should look at is the issue of, because if you look at one of the defense or the public perception was the fact that the Comfort lost her temper or became aggressive when she was restricted of coming out of the airline. Well, I'll tell you, as a matter of fact, let me put it like, if somebody comes to your station and decide to disrupt or decide to do things that is questionable in law, the law provides that citizen can make arrest. Under Section 18 of the Administration of Criminal Justice Act, citizen can make arrest within a stipulated time. So if that happened, or from the account of Ibom Air, yes, they are right to restrict her movement for the purpose of an alleged offense they believe she has committed on board. That is correct. Then the other issue on the side of Comfort, if that issue has been resolved and it was established that the reason why she was restricted at that particular point in time is illegal or is not known to law, then there is also a provision of the law that would warrant Comfort to seek redress, which she can come under false imprisonment on that thought. So there is no need for somebody to become aggressive on that part of it. So that is that. Then the involvement of the Minister of Aviation, good and fine. I commend him for the switch intervention. But another thing again is that we should understand the level and the capacity of each ministerial office. When it comes to issue of prosecution, remember the matter has already gone to court. It is not within the power of the Minister of Aviation to order for such cases to be withdrawn. As a matter of fact, that is where he has the counterpart minister who will step into the issue, which is the Minister of Justice and Attorney General of the Federation. He has the constitutional power to make such law. If she was brought under the act or the act, which means the laws control under the federal government. But if it's under the state, we'll now look at the Attorney General of the state, which is a counterpart ministry under that. Then you look at the other area of the NBA. I commend the NBA for what the NBA did. It is really a drastic step, and I really commend them for that, for what the NBA did. Then we look at the inhuman treatment. To some extent, if you could see the video you have been playing now, she threw the first punch, yes. But another thing again is that there's what we call professionalism in the security apparatus. What would have been done differently? Because if you look at the video, at that particular point in time, she has already been subdued. So to what extent was her clothes being torn and such things made public? That is contrary to section 34, subsection 1, paragraph A of the Constitution, which she can seek redress, because everybody, irrespective of the offense you've committed, you have the right to be treated with dignity of human person.
Barrister,
yes.
I don't want you to go too far. I want to go back on something that you said when it comes to I think citizens arrest. Yes, you spoke about citizens arrest.
Yes.
Now, I read a little bit about citizens arrest and also motive extraction, especially when it has to do with members of the public who are being unruly. And one word kept coming up, and the word was restraint. Now, the air hostess, they claim, restrained Ms. Emmanson by stepping in front of her at the door, not letting her go out. However, the restraint that I read about was an apparatus where an unruly person is actually put in cuffs or some sort of, maybe in some cases even straitjacketed before they are extracted. Now, where does the law come in here regarding the use of restraint by these, unquote, professionals who extracted Ms. Emmanson? And could what the air hostess did be considered restraint by stopping her from stepping out of the plane?
Okay, this is objective regarding this particular question. It's very objective. Now, it must be the force is commensurate. The question is the force used is commensurate. A good example, you cannot restrain someone who is in the course of you saying, okay, can I, like a police officer approaching a suspect now with a gun. You don't expect that police officer to go there with an handcuff. That is one. Do you understand? You could see the video on the screen now. You could see there was no altercation, but this is a professional way of saying, okay, well, at this particular point in time, we are restraining you from not taking further step because of we believe you've committed an offense. There is no verbal condition. Then if you now look at the further video, you discover that between this point and the point she was in the bus, what led to that confrontation? That is where evidence that will be led. Well, okay, you could see the officers now. What led to the security personnel? What led to the confrontation of her throwing her legs, then the other one resorting to punch? But another thing again, we should also look at. You discover that because it is mute, we don't know the extent of words being made because some people are somehow sensitive to the kind of verbal abuse. Some people may not be able to take the verbal abuse that would have come out for her to have warranted that leg kick she has done. Then another thing again is that you could see the restraint taken by the security agent. Now, for me, at that point in time, she has already been subdued. Looking at that video we just displayed now. So to what extent now the aggression I took to the point of clothes being torn or being dragged on the floor is what we need, or what the aviation industry or the authorities, regulatory authorities, need to look at and see the possible way of training our air staff and other stakeholders in the air industry on how to address issues of that nature. So for purpose of restraint, it is commensurate. It must be commensurate. What is the reasonable man standard as to the force you use or the manner of approach?
Let's also talk about the video that was filmed of her and how it was shared and distributed on social media and gone viral. How will this play? Because I know that in that statement by the NBA, they also made mention of the now viral video, the decimation of that video, of how it had gone viral on social media. How will this play out in court and with this case?
Well, if you look at Comfort, and I believe the step she's been taking, the step she's currently taking is the right step, and I believe I'll align myself totally with the position of the Nigerian Bar Association, and I also want to commend the Honorable Minister of Aviation, Honorable Festus, Keyamo, Senior Advocate of Nigeria. I think the people who are the custodian of that data, I will call it data leak, they need to be punished. Because that is breach of confidentiality, that is breach of privacy, That is the highest level you can ever think of downgrading the human person, which the provision of the Constitution is protecting. So for them to have released is to, I think, to the extent of their myopic view, is to shame her, to shame Comfort, or to make her to make her look very bad in the eyes of the public. But from all sense of this thing, she has cause for action for such a video to be released, and that is a clear evidence if proper channels and proper foundation is laid for the admissibility of that document, for that video clip, is a clear evidence where the court can look at and see that a right to human person has been violated.
All right, Barrister Toro,
and a right to privacy.
I beg your pardon. We're gonna hold you on to that. We're gonna come back with a question on that. But let's take a very short break now. When we come back, we'll continue on her rights in this here story. We'll be back. You're welcome back. It's still Breakfast Extra here, and we are on the topic from last week of the, in quote, unruly passenger, the Ibom Air instance. And we have Barrister Toro, who's been with us discussing this. We have more questions for you, Barrister Toro. Thank you very much for sticking around. We were talking about Ms. Emmanson's rights. Now, her rights don't just stop where the airline seems to have infringed upon it, but also that it's gone on to social media now. So it's no longer just about the fact that a staff of the airline could have shared that video. It's that people continue to share this video. So what does the law say about sharing these kinds of videos for individuals who have, well, nothing to do with the instance itself, but perhaps are continuing to share this video? What recourse does she have, if any, when it comes to the population having these material on their phones?
Well, that is another loopholes in our law. You agree with me on that area, because I think that is one of the area I did when it talks about freedom of expression when I was doing my undergraduate in the University of Jos. That is the area I did my research on. Is one of the loopholes one of the loopholes that the social media or regulation of the social media has created. But let's look at it from the bigger picture. You discover that if not for that video that went viral, they understand the public outcry for our let me use the word, for our incarceration wouldn't have been heard, because it was as a result of that video that people's sympathy was drawn for her to be released. As a matter of fact, in less than 24 hours, you could see a non-state actor. A non-state actor, I must be specific, a non-state actor, which is the airline operation of Nigeria, has issued a ban, a light ban for that matter. So if not for the video brought about a return of the situation in a different directive. And you can also look at the role of the magistrate, where he adjourned the matter to October. So those are areas you should look at, the importance of the spread of that video. Then if you look at the disadvantage of that spread, I think a claim should be on the publisher who published the video at that particular point in time. Because another thing again is that when people share, it's not the first time, because there is a World Wide Web. It mainly goes on. It mainly goes on web. Obviously, the publication has already been done. The damages, irrespective of who shared it or not, but at that point of publication. So what will now come is when the court has made a directive or an order that henceforth nobody should share such a video. That is where the law comes to play in our cause. But for as it is now, well, it is the foundation we should be looking at. Who are the first point of contact that shares that video? That is where the issue should come, not at this particular point in time who is sharing or who is resharing. Right. It's more of some people will take it as an entertainment, which you can't take it from them. Well, some people will look at it, laugh over the issue, while some people will be sober and reflective over the issue. Then it comes to a liability at the point when the court make a pronouncement that henceforth that the video should be brought down and nobody should reshare. That is where individuals can be held liable. Yeah, as it is now, is a free-for-all, and there is no way she can hold anybody liable for, apart from the Ibom Air or the people who are there at that particular point in time. But I think the main focus point would be Ibom Air, that will be held liable for a link of that video, because there's all called vicarious liability. They bear the responsibility of their staff. They'll be held liable for the excesses of their staff.
Let me come in here, right, and talk about, we've talked about this from the legal point of view. So I want to step away from legal. You're also a public affairs analyst, and by law, it means that you have also studied human behavior and nature. That's the only way one can come up with laws like this, or the only way for you to practice laws, right? And so what does this video and this ordeal reveal about our society, about our people, and about the nation? From your own standpoint, you're a well-educated, well-traveled man, had the opportunity to work both in Nigeria and away from Nigeria. And so you have seen both sides, right? So I think that you can give a very fair, analysis of what we see today that's playing out in front of us.
Well, Judith, I must confess that what Comfort did in Lagos, here in the UK and other developed countries, you see people who act more difficult than what she has done, what she has alleged to have done. But I believe that the way and manner the authorities handle the issue is quite different from what the Nigerian did. I could tell you the stakeholders involved. I'll give you a good example of what would have done differently. I think there was a time me and my family were traveling to Scotland we're traveling from England to Scotland for a short vacation, and we could see a lot of sin created. But I promise you that the way all the stakeholders handle the situation is more of the tension was even just at the beginning of the word go. Now, you look at the role of the staff of Ibom Air. I think the first point of call was that woman who restricted her. Do you understand? I could really commend her maturity and the way she handled the situation, because I could believe that she even backed her and paid deaf ear to whatever altercation or whatever statement that would have been made. Do you understand? Then you now go back to, outside that scene, what happened next? What would have done better? Would there be a line manager or a supervisor who would have taken over the situation from the word go? The question is, he would have... Come again?
Slow you down there, because the woman whom you are praising right now also was the same and very same provocateur. So the story
wait, I'm talking about character-wise now.
Okay.
I'm speaking based on what is displayed on the screen, and I'm speaking based on accounts I've heard thus far. That woman that restricted her, if you listen to several accounts, she was not the one that provoked her. She gave instructions, she left, and her colleague went further and talked down on the lady. Those are accounts we've had. Then you saw the police now. The police made the situation more worse and difficult. And I'll tell you, as a matter of fact, we operate a police system whereby the first person to report is the victim. Without investigation, they just rushed. And
I need you to say that for those at the back. The first person to report is always the victim with the police. I don't understand it, but please continue. Forgive me for butting in.
Yeah. So the first person to report is always the victim. So the police, I was wondering, with the characters of people there, I just can't imagine the extent or the time the police use in looking at the statement of each of the individuals, particularly those on green reflective jacket, to have truncated the charge of taking her to court immediately. Then the other area is the magistrate. That is where our judiciary needs to sit up. The magistrate has a lot of powers to have looked into a charge or an information in this regard now in Lagos State to see whether there is an element to have warranted him or her to have proceeded with that case. As a matter of fact, there is nothing wrong. I've read all the counts. There's nothing wrong for the magistrate to have granted a bail at first instance, or adjourn the matter for the next day for further inquiry into the first information. But you could see that it took the intervention of a politician, which I will give you the Minister of Aviation, to have called the police to withdraw such a charge. And for me, like I told, when we were making commentary on this issue in one of my peer group, we were making statement that we want to really see the reason, because the police does not have automatic right to have gone to withdraw a charge or an information before a magistrate. They must provide a cogent reason, unlike the Office of the Attorney General that owes nobody explanation. Do you understand? We want to see the reason for the magistrate now, who has adjourned a matter to October of this issue to October, for him to have said, okay, they've withdrawn such a charge. So if you see all stakeholders in this regard, they mismanage the situation. Right. She, as a person, she's an individual. We are talking about a whole several institutions who would have managed the individual, did not do it properly. So I think we need to overhaul our institution, and we need to take away that grip of oppressive control from the mindset of power holders.
Barrister Togo, while we're talking about the magistrate, let's look at a climb and also the intersection between this instance and a previous instance from before, where the subject has certain affiliations, and of course the reason why it wasn't attended to with as much furor as this one has been is because of that affiliation. Now, in a sane climb, how would either of these instances have played out, considering the infringements by the passenger, the airline operator, and in the previous case, the airline pilot and the celebrity that was involved, and I'm referring to the Quam 1 case?
Thank you. Took you long enough.
Please, we should not also forget there's also a character that was not mentioned, a serving senator, Senator Adams Oshomole.
Yes, and then there's that, yes.
Home was swept under the carpet.
Yeah,
so let's. So no, I'm here. I'm here. I'm here. Yes.
So
I'm here.
In a normal climb, how would either of these cases have been handled?
I think as a public analyst, it will be unfair for me to compare issues. I will discuss it as it is, but if you look at it from all categories, is that they all has to do with behaviors. They all have to do with a crisis. So I believe that they would have been managed separately and individually. But another thing again is that when you're managing issues separately and individually, it should be commensurate to the actions taken by individuals. A good example of the our distinguished senator, who is a comrade, I respect him because I'm also a comrade. Do you understand? You could see that it was taken in a pinch of salt. As a matter of fact, there were apologies tendered, not even from him, but to him. Do you understand? So, but irrespective of your right violation, there's a capacity there's a level of capacity you need to exhibit when conflicts are within your terrain, and that he lacked in that regard. Then, if you see the musician or that one who stood in front of an airline, endangering about how many people on board, I think that one was. I think he was even made an ambassador. We want to commend the society where they reward bad behavior, basically. So where good behaviors are seen as being docile, where bad behavior are seen as being rewarded. Therefore, comfort, for issue of comfort, well, the issue of comfort is that just like what a friend of mine in India, because we discuss issues, I belong to a peer group where we compare activities that happen in our country. An India friend of mine said it's more expensive to be poor in Nigeria. And I won't want to agree with him, because I told him that the difference between India and Nigeria is the fact that they are more populated than we do. But character-wise, we have some cynical behaviors. So, but I will align myself with him to some extent that comfort's own is as a result of who she is and her status in the society. I believe it would have been different. It would have been different if it were to be someone like our distinguished senator or a musician. Then I must, as a matter of fact...
Or a daughter of either a celebrity or a senator, or a daughter of a celebrity or a senator or an influential figure that is connected to power.
Different strokes for different.
That's why they said it's more expensive. It's more expensive to be poor in Nigeria now.
Very true.
It's more expensive to be poor in Nigeria.
Thank you for saying that. And I want to refer to Judith here. Judith, there's something that somebody also noted.
Right.
Now, for instance, my wife had never heard of Ibom Air. And only since this catastrophe did she know that they existed. They only just came on board like a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
So, of course, that would be expected. Now, with the level of what's the word, now, exposure that Ms. Emmanson has given Ibom Air, don't you think that she is deserved of some sort of compensation for that?
Well,
I don't know.
And that's why the case is available, right? Because I feel like the case will definitely ensure
let's look at it from the public that's public relation aspect of it. The question is, we have good publicity and we have bad publicity.
No
for me, as a matter of
publicity.
for me, as a matter of fact, if I want to fly, there's some airline within me, and I've told my family that no matter the situation, I won't fly with such an airline. And I think with the way and manner it is now, publicity, yes, but what good is their publicity? If it's a sane society, I'll tell you, Ibom Air would have come out publicly to apologize to the public. But it's not a sane society. We are in a sane society.
I wish there's enough time, because I was going to ask about what this reveals about the soft white underbelly, about how this is now being played. People are using porn on, using words, wordplay when it comes to, a mammary gland. Forgive me, I didn't want to say the words. And for example, people who have now used, AI to create all kinds of things is now circulating, is now an inside joke. Somebody's mental health and trauma is on the line. There's something.
Now, that is, in that regard, now, that means there's been an alteration to the narrative. She can sue that individual for that. He can sue the originator of that idea, the publisher of that idea, because there's been an alteration from the original publication. So that person can be held liable to that. But you see in Nigeria, like somebody will say that we cruise a lot over issues. We cruise a lot over issues. And I'll tell you, as a matter of fact, the aviation industry of every country, the aviation industry, the police and the judiciary is the landmark of every country to see if it's a fair and just society.
On that note, how is Nigeria viewed internationally now, with these instances bringing to the fore the lapses we have in our aviation service sector?
Yeah, well, Nigeria is viewed as one of the best countries because we have one of the best brain. It all depends on how best you want to market your country. But surprisingly, you discover that it's even we, the Nigerians, who in one way or the other are privileged to now be demarketing the country. But just like I told you, most times I have mockery for some of my friends. I have a friend from South Africa who view my status often. I have a friend from India, and we mock over our issues. But the bottom line of it is that we have good people, we have good things happening in Nigeria that outweighs the bad thing. It's just about the publicity and how we market some of these things that are sellable in the international community.
And one of the good things is roasted corn and pear, even though now it's expensive. And then there's also mango as well.
I miss that one.
Yeah,
I miss that
good
one.
things.
Come back home. Thank you very much. And,
I'm still making consultation. I'm on self-sabbatical. I'll be back.
We can see
I
that
can't wait to have you back.
You're going for some frequent flyer miles there. But thank you very much, Barrister. Always a pleasure to have you here with us discussing matters.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Okay, bye.